With the biggest story of the day, and that is the news that DeWanna Bonner is no longer with the Indiana Fever. It was reported last night that DeWanna Bonner had no intentions on returning to the Indiana Fever, and then the news broke today that the Indiana Fever had indeed.
DeWanna Bonner felt she could just give up on the Indiana Fever and dance in any. She could have any squad she wanted, but reality hit her. Like a goods train, teams across the WNBA won't touch her with a 10-foot pole after watching how she left her teammates in the middle of the season. Karma is striking me differently right now. You think DeWanna Bonner should be blacklisted by other teams after what she did, folks? We are witnessing one of the most satisfying cases of immediate karma in WNBA history right now. DeWanna Bonner decided she could just quit on the Indiana Fever, abandoned Caitlin Clark and her teammates midway, and somehow thought teams would be lining up to sign her. Well, guess what? Reality just handed her a chili dish of consequences. And it's absolutely delicious to watch.
Statement. She said, "I want to sincerely thank the Indiana Fever for the opportunity to be part of the Fever franchise. Despite our shared goals and excitement heading into the season, I felt the fit did not work out, and I appreciate the organization's willingness to grant my request to move on, particularly at this point in my career. I wish the Fever great success as they continue to build around this dynamic group of young players."
What's happening that makes this whole situation even more awkward for Bonner? She's been waived by the Fever, which means any team in the league may claim her off waivers and she'd get her entire salary, all $200,000.
If another team claims her off the waivers, she gets her full salary. She gets her full salary if another team claims her off the waivers.
$100,000 of.
I think that makes DeWanna Bonner look really, really bad. It makes DB look really, really bad. And it's the fact that she has told all other teams, other than the Mercury, don't sign her.
That's a lot of money in the WNBA, and you'd assume teams would be interested in a veteran player with championship experience, right? Wrong.
And look, I understand that's where she wants to go. Why didn't she go there in the summer? We know why, because she couldn't have got her max contract. And by the way, people are like, oh, they can give her the minimum. No, they can't. The Phoenix Mercury can give her a prorated $80,000 salary for the rest of the year. So she's only going to lose about 30K-ish. And she's only going to lose, she's going to lose about 40, 50K. Whereas they would have been only able to sign her earlier on. Well, they would only be able to sign her for nothing. Because again, we can't forget as well, the Phoenix Mercury cut Sevgi Uzun. The Phoenix Mercury have a bunch of players signed on hardships and a bunch of players that they can cut. Like they literally cap space magicked up, and as soon as cap space magics up for the India or for the Phoenix Mercury,
Her Honor has reportedly told every single team in the league except the Phoenix Mercury not to even bother attempting to sign her. She's basically acting like she's a free agent who gets to pick and choose where she goes when, in truth, she's ruined goods that nobody wants. She's pulling a Ben Simmons, sitting out and requesting to just go to one certain team while ignoring the fact that she's under contract. The utter audacity of this woman is breathtaking. She signs with Indiana, takes their money, gets all the perks of being affiliated with the biggest story in women's basketball, poses for Sports Illustrated covers, plays in front anticipated sold-out crowds, and then when things don't go precisely her way, she just quits. And now she thinks she can dictate conditions to the entire league about where she'll play next, having a bunch of players signed on hardships and a bunch of players that they can chop like they have. They literally cap space magic up, and as soon as cap space magics up for the India or for the Phoenix Mercury. But here's where it gets really embarrassing for Bonner. The Phoenix Mercury, the one team she genuinely wants to join, allegedly aren't even sure they desire her anymore. Think about that for a second. She burned bridges with Indiana deliberately to force her way to Phoenix. And now Phoenix is looking at this scenario wondering, do we really want someone who quits on their team when things get tough? The Mercury are currently playing well with their little nucleus of role players who have bought into their system their winning games, with players that truly want to be there who aren't going to abandon the team the instant anything doesn't go their way. Why would they want to disrupt that chemistry for someone who just indicates she's unreliable? Let's talk about the commercial side of this calamity. If rival club had claimed Bonner off waivers, she would have gotten her entire $200,000 salary, but because she's asking to only go to Phoenix, she's probably going to end up signing for a prorated veteran minimum of approximately $80,000. She's basically spending herself over $100,000 because she thinks she can control where she plays after quitting on her squad. The fact that every other team in the league is staying away from her tells you all you need to know about how this situation is being regarded throughout the league. GMs and coaches are looking at what Bonner done and thinking whether she'll stop on Indiana when they need her most. What's to stop her from quitting on us? That's not the kind of reputation you want to have in a league with only 144 roster spots. This whole incident makes Bonner look very foolish and selfish. If she definitely wanted to play for Phoenix thus badly, why didn't she just sign with them in the first place during free agency? Everyone knew the Mercury were attracted in her. Everyone knew she had a relationship with Alyssa Thomas. Everyone knew that's where she wanted to be, but she chose the money and attention that came with signing in Indiana. Instead, now she's attempting to have it both ways: take Indiana's money and exposure, then force her way to Phoenix when it's convenient for her. That's not how professional sports work, and it's definitely not how you create trust with organizations and teammates. The worst aspect is how this impacts Caitlin Clark and the other young players on the Fever. These players looked forward to Bonner as a senior leader, someone who was supposed to guide them through the burden of playing for the league's most scrutinized franchise. Instead, she taught them that when things get rough, you can just quit and walk away. That's not leadership, that's abandonment. Clark especially was enthusiastic about playing with Bonner. You could see it in pre-season how much effort Clark put into establishing chemistry with her. For one of the first times in Clark's career, she's essentially been informed by someone she admired that they didn't want to play with her. That has to sting, and it perhaps explains some of Clark's recent troubles on the court. The Jimmy Butler comparisons are great, since what Butler did in Philadelphia was generally criticized as unprofessional and detrimental to team culture. The difference is Butler was at least still a high-level player when he forced his way out. Bonner is 36 years old and clearly on the decline, yet she's acting like she has the leverage of a superstar. Then Simmons is another amazing parallel, because he also sat out and sought a trade while still under contract. The difference is Simmons was younger and theoretically had greater value. Bonner is approaching the conclusion of her career and just showed every team in the league that she's willing to quit when things don't go her way. What makes this even more ludicrous is that Bonner's reservations regarding her role in Indiana seemed entirely exaggerated. She was a starter, she was getting significant minutes, she was being featured in the offense. Yes, the team wasn't performing as good as planned, but that's not a cause to forsake your teammates mid-season. The fact that she's urging teams not to claim her off waivers displays how entitled she's become. She thinks she can manage the entire process, impose terms to the league, and push her way to exactly where she wants to go without any consequences. Well, the consequences are here, and they're not pretty. Teams throughout the league are basically treating Bonner like she has the pandemic right now. No GM wants to be the one who brings in a player who simply proves she'll leave on her team when things get hard. That's harmful to team culture and communicates a terrible message to other players on the roster. The Mercury's hesitating decider is Extremely telling because they're the one squad she genuinely wants to join if even they're having second thoughts about bringing in someone who forced their way out of their former situation. That informs you how horrible this looks from the outside. Phoenix is also in a terrific situation right now with their current roster construction. They have young players who are contributing and buying into their system. Why would they want to potentially disrupt that for a 36-year-old who just quit on her last team? It doesn't make basketball sense or cultural sense. The financial aspect makes this even more awful for Bonner. She's going to lose substantial money because of her decision to force her way out instead of appreciating her contract and collecting her full compensation. She's probably going to wind up making half of what she was expecting to make this season. The timing of her departure, it makes it worse. This happened right when Caitlin Clark was coming back from injury, exactly when the team needed experienced leadership the most. Instead of stepping up and helping the team through a tough era, Bonner elected to produce more disruption and drama. The media's unwillingness to condemn Bonner for this decision is also frustrating, but expected. WNBA media tends to protect players even when they make blatantly bad decisions, but fans aren't buying it. They can view this scenario for what it is, which is a veteran player selfishly leaving her team. The precedent this creates is detrimental for the league if players can just quit mid-season and force their way to their